what about the biases that came from the rest of the ecosystem? Give you a hearty laugh, or that little feeling of tug in the heart.
So I lived in 6 cities in 7 years of my life. I think when you know your job, you're passionate about it, your eyes, your mouth, your heart, everything syncs and you talk.
Yeah.
So you can't be sitting in one place in one cabin and function. This is not how it works. But you can't sit down and say, I'm your boss and that's it.
And I wouldn't want to bust that bubble for myself, but yes, I know that there can definitely be a lot more that we can do to help one another rise than pulling the other one down. I totally hear you on that.
How do you feel about being in a male dominant industry? I'm like, this is not a question I need to answer. When you look at any award, it's a women entrepreneur award. I don't get it. Entrepreneur should be an entrepreneur award, not women or men.
Hear you. You know, growth happens in those small pockets, often unannounced, and how we just keep moving forward, building that momentum, recalibrating without losing ourselves. Hi, everyone, and glad that we have all of you here tuning in to yet another episode and conversation at Tales and Lattes. Today, we're going to start with something really honest. And that thought is that for most of us, we possibly didn't know where we're going to land exactly in our lives, be it with our careers, be it with our roles, be it with how confident we feel in our own skin. I'm sure all of this has taken turns that we possibly didn't plan for. And yet, here we are, figuring it all out, showing up for ourselves, and still carrying more than one version of ourselves, all at the same time. And that's what brings us to this conversation here today. So, welcome to She Said What, a conversation forum which really isn't about quick fixes, quick answers, or those neatly crafted success stories, but it's about the years in between, the decisions that are made in a state of blur, chaos, the pauses that come our way when we didn't expect them at all, and the shifts that really change how we lead, how we show up, and who we become. I'm Deeksha, founder of Power Pivot, and today we're having one such conversation, which is about ambition in ways more than what we can understand, which is about leadership, which is, if I were to put it right, purely shaped by lived experiences, and courage that it really takes to keep recalibrating your start point, your North Star, your end goal without losing what matters at the core. I'm delighted to be joined by Akanksha Bhargava. Welcome aboard, Akanksha. So glad to have you with us in this
Thanks, Diksha.
conversation today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Great. So, Akanksha, I mean, you and I have chatted before, and of what I understand of your journey so far, didn't come across as a straight line to me, or one that has had very carefully staged milestones. It's one that has been shaped by choices, by family, by health, by responsibility, ambition, and timing. And often, they've been colliding with one another. But I think what was very heartening to hear, and what I'm really excited to unpack in detail with you, is how did you go about keeping pace with all of it and yet keep growing through it? Right.
It's a very, very long and deep answer, but I think I'll just say one thing that I've continuously believed in. I think, today we read so much of, philosophy coming in our way. We have so many motivational, videos and quotes out there. Social media has made us so aware of
Yeah.
ourselves. And, when you see something out there, you feel inspired. But
So,
back in the day, when I started, I think the only mantra I literally, every time I thought that how would I wake up the next morning and what
hmm,
and what should I do to solve this and how should I navigate myself.
Yeah.
And also, knowledge and your background, so many things shape up the way you conduct a business. And it could be anything. It's not about gender. It's not about the business that you do. It's not about, how much you've, studied about it and what you have to, deliver. I think
Right.
every experience is so unique. And that's what I think you are tested for. I think the
Absolutely.
only thing that works for all of this under current is that you just have to show up the next morning. And when you show up and when you sit on that chair on your desk and whatever you feel that energizes you or makes you you know uh, give you an intent in life.
Yeah.
You could be a writer, you could be a entrepreneur, you could be a musician, you could be anybody. And you have your moments of disconnect, and but when you show up the next morning and you say, come what may, I have to be there. I think that is the first step of finding the path. And trust me not, so many times I've felt it's done and I just showed up
Hmm.
and I found an answer. I found something coming my way that I had not expected. I saw some signal or some advice or
Hmm.
something that just changed my perspective to do something else. So I think all of this, coming together about, health, family,
Yeah.
we as women have multiple, I think we have multiple signboards always in our head, 10 things going on at the same time. Like
Yeah.
right now I'm talking to you, but I'm also thinking about what is happening in school and stuff like that. It's always going to be that. But I
Yes.
think the only way to, counter everything that doesn't go your way in life is to just show up, and that's it.
Wow.
So this has been the only thing that I've done, and I think I've done it consistently.
Wow, that's beautiful, and I really love that. I think that's a big takeaway for me as well, because it's really not the beauty of things doesn't necessarily lie in those big frameworks and articulating them. Like you said, there's a lot of motivation that's going around all of us, but in the simplicity of things, which is just show up for yourself every single day, every single moment. Just steal that time for yourself and make your presence felt for your own self before anybody else. So I
Yeah, I
think I
mean,
absolutely love that, babe.
at 40, when I look like I have 19 years behind me, of course, I can talk with wisdom, I can talk with experience and say, this happened and we still saw the next morning. So it's great.
Yes.
Honest to God, I think as a 21-year-old, this is exactly how I performed in my life. And it was even before that when I was in college. I was heading the choreography team of my college, and the first competition we had a bad one. We were messed up. We didn't know what we were doing. The first one we were, and I had like these juniors with me who were first time on stage. And DU can be very intimidating because it's got
Yeah.
crowd from
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah.
And we were a mess. We were like the last out of 10. So then the next day, I said, it's a Sunday, where I said, all of you need to be in college. I need to see each one of you back in college to, figure this out, what we've done. And
Yeah.
I think we just changed the gear. And the next one we were two, and the next one we were second. And then we were
Wow.
also first because we changed a lot of our strategy, the way we were doing things, the way we were pushing each other. We just came
Right.
together with one failure. Imagine. So I
Right.
think I just realized that that was always my way of countering things in life. That if something
Mm.
goes wrong, okay, you
Mm.
feel bad, you remorse, you cry. I cry my heart out for everything, I think. But
Mm.
but yeah, show up and just figure it out.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Tell us a little bit more about Akanksha, the person, your journey personally, professionally, if you were to possibly sum it up as a chapter in a book or anything else that resonates with you. We'd just love to know your story in a little more detail.
I think I would define myself as someone who chooses to do everything from our heart. There is no other way I know things in life. And right from the time I saw my father, build his business, my mom joined him when I was in grade 4. I think that's exactly what I saw. Whatever they did, there was so much purity, sanctity, purpose, and so much hard work in that
Hmm.
I think I just resonated with the idea that you cannot be doing anything half-heartedly in life. So I
Hmm.
think my core was absolutely built on the principle that if you do whatever you do in your life, you got to be 100% at it and do it with your heart. Otherwise, don't do it.
Right. Right.
Academically, I was quite okay. I did well, and then I got to Hindu College, my dream college. I think I'll always owe my leadership, my journey, my life, my
Hmm.
vibe, my heart to my college. I think it really transformed a 17-year-old girl into someone else. I was into dancing. I did Kathak for a long time in my life, and then I took up the choreography position. I was a choreography president in my college, and then I was also the president of the first ever placement cell of our college. And
Okay.
then I was also heading the cultural society of our college. So I was pretty much everywhere in DU and
Hmm.
leave home at 6:30, come back at 9. That was my life.
Yeah.
I think travel, going by bus, taking the DU, I think everything added to the rigor that was supposed to come forward. And then I think as the only child, I always felt that my parents have built a beautiful company, and I don't want it to be ever felt that okay, they don't have a son or they don't have a second generation to do this. Of course, relocation, logistics,
Yeah.
courier, transport never resonated with women. There was hardly a role model that I could look up to. 2007, when I finished my MBA from SPG in Singapore, I decided to not sit for placements, and I said, let me go back and join my dad. Of course, I used to go to his office in summer holidays. That was such a
Hmm.
fun time. Do
Yeah.
nothing and just boss over everyone. I could do all of that. And my daughter does that now. So,
Yeah.
yeah, good memories. But then I
Now
always
just come
felt
back.
I think I was more creative in nature. I never
Huh.
thought there was a side of me. I think I was a leader, yes, in terms of bringing out the creativity and bringing out the best out of people. I realized that way back when I was in college that there was someone in me who had a purpose and who took the team together. When there was a
Right.
failure, I stood up and said I failed, and when we succeeded, I said we succeeded. So there
Yeah.
was always the we and I very clear in my head, and I don't know how that happened, but I think it was because of I think definitely my parents, because you you imbibe everything that you grow, you watch and grow. I think as a leader, I was always taught that when you have a team, you got to take care of them.
Yeah.
Be it your home help, be it your driver, be it anybody.
Yeah.
If you're sitting at that position, you got to be responsible. So I was always built like that. But then yes, when I got to the time of joining, I think
Yeah.
I was very creative. So my father was not very sure whether this was the right place to be. Like any parent would be. He's like, you can do so much with your dance. I was quite okay in academics. I wanted to be a CA at a point, but at 21, I said, if I don't study now, if I don't do an MBA now, I'll never do it. So CAT happened. I got good marks. Literally, I was
Oh.
in a college dance competition, and Sunday I gave my CAT and I had a 92 percentile. And I was like, this just
Hmm.
happened. I think it was
Yeah.
God's plan.
Yeah.
And then I just went for my MBA. It was the first time out of, your home comfort at a B school
Yeah.
where we were one of the youngest people, three, four of us. I
Right.
realized at such a young age to do a MBA, and I would never advise any 21-year-old to do it now. You kind of get nothing out of it. But yes, so much absorbed. I think I absorbed so much around in that country amongst my peer group. And so there was definitely learning everywhere. Then I
Hmm.
joined the industry. I think both my parents were like, okay, you do this and then you figure it out. There's no pressure.
So you joined the industry. You took up a role outside of PMR.
No, no, no. I joined that only. I joined
You
PM.
joined.
It was
Okay.
PM Packers back then,
Okay.
Diksha. We were
Okay.
called PM Packers. That was the company my father had launched and started. And the first thing, as a B school brain, I said Packers and Movers sounds very cliche. We should make it more, sound better. So let's call it relocations. So the first change was the name. So we launched a new brand in 2007 when I started. So
Okay.
yeah, I mean, I was clear of one thing, that if I do
Hmm.
this, it's got to be by 200%. It can't be like, okay, dad's business. Oh,
Hmm.
yeah, kar liya. I was never skinned like
Hmm.
that. I was never that person. Of
Hmm.
course, there's always support when you have family doing
Yeah.
something,
No.
and
Yeah.
your grounds are sorted. Your base is quite there. You're not starting at a point where you have zero. But yes,
Right.
scaling up is equally challenging when you're joining a business which is already existing for 20 years,
Right.
and you have people who built it a certain way. Back then there was no technology, there was no internet, there was nothing. Like
Yeah.
2007 was like, there was no GPS as well. You could not navigate yourself anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
So finding your foot in that space and scaling up and changing the mindset was
Hmm.
a huge task, because I was a young girl, 21. I
Hmm.
was a boss's daughter, and I was a young boss. So I was a young girl boss
Hmm.
and boss's daughter,
Hmm.
all going against me basically, at a place where it was anyway not considered that, women should do this.
Hmm.
So whoever knew this was what I was doing, they were like, "Arey, up, as usual.
Yeah.
She's so bright. She's so intelligent.
Yeah.
Why is she doing transport business? She should be studying and doing CA or law or IAS because she has that brain and she's always been the topper in school." So nobody kind of, understood what, but my parents, definitely my parents, I think they in their heart loved the idea that I was joining because, you create something and your child has a intent to it. It's always a good feeling. But it's also difficult because you're giving away a part of you to your child and it's not easy. Like I know it's not easy. Now that my child, if tomorrow she wants to do this, I will be like, okay, I made this, you gotta be careful of this. And you know how to be protective.
Yeah.
But hats off to my folks. I think they were just like, I remember coming back from my first conference at 21 from Budapest, and my dad, I was at the airport. It was an 11-hour wait at the Russia airport, and I was like, "What do I do?" So I was watching Friends,
Okay.
and he was like, "You're supposed to be doing emails. Why are you watching?" But then he came back and said, "Listen, I'm sorry. You are an independent person. You've joined work. It's your choice. So I need you to take a decision of what you want to do." I take my words back.
Interesting.
And it just stayed with me, Diksha. I don't know anybody at 21 who would say you are independent, you know your thing, you need to do what you need to do. And uske baad, I don't think my dad is ever making sense. Let's skip this out and let's do this. So, I know I'm going all over the place, but yeah, coming back to my B school and then joining him. So I was in Delhi and then I thought 2 months in Delhi, I said, I need to leave Delhi to feel like if I can do this. So I moved to Bangalore. I moved to Bangalore with.
Like you moved base to Bangalore or you
I
visited?
moved my base to Bangalore, base.
Okay.
Knew nothing.
What was the intent?
Yeah, we are there, right? I didn't know how to, find my customer or I had no idea about the city. It was just zero.
Okay.
And I moved there. And the first day my dad dropped me, I dropped him and came back from the airport and I banged my car. I've never had an experience in Delhi to get my car serviced because I have a driver. So that next morning, I took my car to the workshop. I took an auto, went for a client meeting, came back. I think that was my beginning. And I realized, there's a different story here altogether. But I think, cut to 19 years. I mean, we were a team of 30 odd. Did you lose me? Yeah. And today we're about close to 600 people in 12 cities.
Sorry, did you just say you were a team of 30 people in what year?
2 cities in 2007 when I had started 19 years back.
Okay.
And we are 600 today in 12 cities and globally expanded. So I think it's a long story. It's very difficult to put it in words. But I think, Diksha, for me, every time I was told that this is not your place, or every time I was questioned, why would you do this? Be it from my competitors, be it from my clients, be it from people, at a point, my parents were looking for a match, be it from that perspective, be it from, our surroundings, relatives, and investors. I went out there to raise money because at that time startups were raising money like anything. And I was like, what am I doing? We should do this and that. At the 20s, you have so many ideas in your head, right? But I did not raise money anywhere. Everybody questioned the industry. They questioned the business. They questioned my capability. They questioned what would happen if I get married and so many things. And every time I came back with like zero success, I just showed up. So I just, my journey has always been about whenever someone told me this is not your place, I exactly went back and said, this is exactly my place. So I think my answer was very clear. Someone told me long back, oh, you've not created a brand, so why should someone join your company? And I created a brand without spending money. Today, when you look at LinkedIn, you've moved with us without knowing me, right? So this is brand, you don't have to
absolutely
be out there, shout out there that this is what I do. But if you do good work, it does spread out. You get your customers. So there's been a parallel journey of building clients, parallel journey of building, your partners, vendors, global expansion, because we move people not just within India, we do global, we do Singapore, US, everywhere in the world. So any pin code, we can move families. And that takes a lot because you're doing a full 6-month job of moving a sea shipment from Singapore to US. And so there has been a lot of ups and downs. But
fantastic, but just so heartening to see where we've come to. And I say we
it's
as
work in progress.
esteemed customer of PMR.
it's work in progress. It goes, you have to take care of your people. You have to take care of
Yeah.
the kind of trainings you do, the kind of nurturing you do. The
Yeah.
market is difficult. It is highly
Mm.
competitive. People
Mm.
don't understand the industry as well. It's still very unorganized. You have people from the on the road who are doing packers. They call packers and movers, and you would see so many people doing the same job. And
Absolutely.
I have a wonderful team, but
Mm.
keeping them, building them,
Mm.
continuously making people work with each other. That's a different perspective and journey altogether.
Yeah, no,
So it's
absolutely.
parallelly 100 things running.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. I'm really intrigued to unpack two different themes with you.
Uh,
Uh, One is, when you made that interesting point that, obviously this was a business that was built ground up by your parents. And, that's when you came in, and, it was at that time a setup that was steered and anchored by family. And that can sometimes blur the lines between what's the authority, what's the emotion, what's the expectation behind it. Um, how did you go about finding your voice and your space in that ecosystem, be it with respect to decisions or, just how you wanted to go about managing things? How hard or easy was it, and how did you go about navigating that part?
I think step one, I never thought I deserved to be the boss. First step, I never felt like I was the boss. I started as someone who was learning. I went down the line to my people in the warehouse, to my supervisors, and I said, "Mujhe sikhao. I want to learn." So when you give respect, Diksha, I think that's again an upbringing. When you give respect and you don't take it as an entitlement,
Hmm.
you do feel a little bit more comforted by people around. Of course, there is a lot of back talking. There's a lot of questions on your caliber. There's a lot of questions on how you'll be able to manage the pressure, the stress. Because my
Hmm.
dad, he's a person who had built for 18, 19 years to step into
Hmm.
his.
Right.
So my only fear at that point was that what if I don't match up to what level of quality he delivers? Or
Hmm.
what if I don't, whatever he's built and I mess it up? So my doubt in my head was never about, I guess, getting aligned with people, because I knew sooner or later, I think I knew how to, or I knew the knack of working with people. I've always been that person.
Hmm.
But my fear definitely was, what if I just what if I just don't do this well? Of course,
Hmm.
there's a big doubt there.
Hmm.
And because you've never worked anywhere, you've never handled
Hmm.
a certain situation, pressure, money,
Hmm.
budgets,
Hmm.
a situation where you don't have money to pay your salaries and stuff.
Hmm.
Those things that take time to make you strong in your head, right? Doesn't
Yeah.
come like
Absolutely.
overnight.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
quit. When I had to grow the company, I went up to my dad and I said, the only way we will build the business is we take an overdraft, because
Yeah.
nobody was giving us money as an investor and there was
Yes.
no point in getting a VC. So the only way we would have built is an OD, and the only house that my parents had was the only mortgage I could have given.
Yeah.
So the moment that happened, I had sleepless nights. I was like, I have given this also now. Now, but yeah, I think it's again due respect to parents. Yeah, they never questioned. They said, "This is what you want to do. Are you sure?" Okay, no questions asked. So somewhere, yeah, that confidence, that belief was my weapon in life. And I think with people, I did. I have seen an email. I won't want to name anybody now, but 19 years back, I did see an email, someone writing to their family and saying, "My boss's daughter has joined and now she's going to tell me 10 things to do and I'm not liking this." But she was a very integral part of the company and she felt, oh my God, what have
Mm.
I? Because they've been working for 6, 7 years and they
Yeah.
felt that where is our position going to be? Because now
Right.
someone else will take it over and not give us
Right.
that respect. But I think
Right.
I genuinely respected my people. I
Hmm.
still do. I respected the experience.
Hmm.
Um, I took my time to make my place by
Hmm.
only by my work. I always say, "आपका काम बोलना चाहिए." Words are wisdom, great, but your work has to talk. So when I moved to Bangalore and I was alone, I built my team. I've had situations like 2 a.m. that the labor has run away, the packers have run away, some problem has happened, packing material has got short. I took my car, went to the warehouse, opened the
Wow.
warehouse, took the material in my wagoner, took it to the
Yeah.
site, collected people from the road. I've literally done all this in my night, in my pajamas, because there's
Yeah.
nobody who would do it for me. So
Yeah.
when all of those experiences happened,
Yeah.
and with time, I delivered. I went out there, I started. So then when people see the change, they
Hmm.
realize that this person is working really hard and she's not taking it for granted. Your
Hmm.
competition never took you seriously. The moment they started seeing, because this girl is everywhere,
Hmm.
then they said, okay, PMR is growing. And then slowly,
Hmm.
slowly, for many years, it takes you many years to make that
Hmm.
place.
Hmm.
It took me at least 7, 8 years to find my ground and say, okay, now I think I deserve the respect.
Hmm.
For many years, I said, I don't deserve anything. Don't make me. I
Hmm.
didn't even have a cabin, or I didn't kind of invested in any kind of
Hmm.
luxury. I would say I would walk
Hmm.
hours. I would think twice before taking a taxi. I have to travel. I used to keep a diary of budget and mention that this is what I've spent, is what I need to earn. So I was very, very aware of what I have to prove
Hmm.
myself. So I think when it started happening,
Hmm.
in many years, it doesn't happen overnight. If you go out there and say, okay, I'm an MB, I know my shit, I can do this, I can do that. Sorry, when you work on the ground level with your people, especially blue collar and people which you're not an unorganized industry, you're not
Right.
sitting in a place where your knowledge helps.
Hmm.
Okay, if you're an investment firm, banker and all, your knowledge is key. But if you're sitting at a business like this, your
Hmm.
experience is the key and your way of handling things is the key. That comes with age.
Hmm.
So I think I didn't show that. I didn't go out there and prove my point. I just took it slow, made my place, built my business. And then I said, okay, now I think I deserve respect. Now I deserve this. And then I started leading in a different way.
So I understand the whole part about, your family being supremely supportive. And, this being a space where a lot of biases can be at play. Like you said, you didn't really have, when you started out, any role models to look up to as a woman who's been steering or anchoring a business like this. What about the biases that came from the rest of the ecosystem? When you look back, are there some that totally stand out for you, give you a hearty laugh, or that little feeling of tug in the heart that, oh my God, that is also something that I heard from my
Oh
peers, my
God,
coworkers,
next level.
anybody.
Diksha, I was staying alone in cities because I've built Bangalore, then I moved to Hyderabad, then I moved to Mumbai, then I moved to Pune. So I lived in 6 cities in 7 years of my life. And
Wow.
I
And
was in
all
my
of this
20s.
was a conscious move. It was
Yeah,
a
yeah.
choice that you
I
made.
wanted to know my city. I wanted to know my country. Even now, if I had a choice, I would like to stay in these cities for months and be with the team and run my bit, because that's the way this industry can be running. You can't be sitting in one place in one cabin and function. This is not how it works. But of course, with family, with daughter, with things in life, you can't do that. Maybe my 2.0 version will come one day.
Hmm.
But back in the day, I mean, I was staying alone, right? So there was so many generalizations that were there,
Hmm.
that how firstly women have to deal with a situation where they live alone in their 20s, so everybody thinks that they are quite easy and available. Secondly, when you're sitting in a meeting and you're the only woman, because you have admin, you have procurement, you have
Yeah.
7, 8 people, and you're there, it can be intimidating, and it can be.
Right.
And you're presenting on an office move which is about a 40 lakhs business, and then the next 5 companies are also all men.
Yeah.
It's like you have to keep your voice loud and clear, but not harsh and rude. And you don't want to either be too soft. So it's very complicated. But yes, I think when you know your job, you're passionate about it, your eyes, your mouth, your heart, everything sinks and you talk.
Yeah.
So but then apart from that, many times I think there's so many situations where I was questioned that would I be able to manage the team? Would I be able to deliver? Would
Okay.
I be? I mean, there was someone who was the CEO of a beverage company, very very big guy. I mean, he's still a great friend now, and he asked me, "You're so educated, Akanksha. You're so smart. You're so intelligent. Why you? What are you doing with your life? Why are you doing this?" I'm like, why? They're like, precisely because you feel that
Yeah.
educated people should not be doing this. I'm that's why I'm doing this today. I still have a laugh with him on this, but imagine this was coming from someone who has worked his life. He's the head of a big company. He's
Yeah.
running a $1 billion business, but he still thinks keep packing, moving, and relocation doesn't need
Mhm.
education. It's a very base level business, but processes, SLAs, trainings, I think are very hardcore. I think our business is very complicated. It's not
I'm sure.
as
Yes.
busy,
Yeah.
so much process,
Yeah. I'm
so much
sure.
process. In fact, we should be given a chance to be in a B school because one job, if you do between say US to India or Delhi to US, you have at least 22 touch points. I've done this case study with my team. If you have 25 people and one person falters somewhere, the chain breaks and you're gone.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
But a lot of biases. I mean, there were biases around caliber, there were biases around gender, there were biases around education, there were biases around why you doing this. And of course, the general biases to, hey, if you get
Yeah.
married, you have children,
Yeah.
what will happen to the company?
Yeah.
And then I have mostly my men around me, right? My office also, how much ever women I have, there's still 80% men because we cannot employ women packers. I wish I could, but lot of compliances will be a challenge.
Yeah. Wow.
So I'm very proud of that for sure.
Yeah.
But they're more like my people. I think वो कभी आया ही नहीं that.
Yeah. So as I understand from you, Akanksha, and I love the way you've just made it all sound so simple. Like,
Mm.
we've been chatting for maybe about 30-35 minutes now, but I haven't heard any big lofty jargons, any management frameworks that really came to your rescue. But I hear a lot of strength and muscle and rigor that has been built by daily practices, habits, rituals, by role modeling what a leader should look like, and then going about and earning your spot. So I think I love the way you've made it so simple in a world which was full of biases, and I'm sure there still are a few that come your way because this industry is such where from the gender aspect, from the education aspect, or from many other dimensions, there are going to be a lot of biases coming your way every single day. But kudos to how you've made it sound, like that one simple joyride that you've been on. But tell me then, there was also motherhood that happened along the way. And as I see it from whatever I've understood, after being a mother for 10 odd years, it does change the texture of how we look at
Oh,
ambition and
totally.
success,
Totally.
right? So how did becoming a mother or a parent reshape or repivot your own relationship with ambition, with your sense of purpose, with guilt, if I were to use that word? And how do you go about navigating these emotions and kind of moving along with motherhood and a career like yours?
So I'll tell you, just like how, with respect to biases, I think what you had just asked me before, that I think as a person, as a leader, I never felt that I didn't belong to a male dominant industry, but people around me made me
Yes.
feel, oh my God. Every reporter used to ask me, how do you feel about being in a male dominant industry? I'm like, this is not a question I need to answer. When you look at any award, it's a women entrepreneur award. I don't get it. Entrepreneur should be an entrepreneur award, not women or
I
men.
hear you
So
on
there
that.
were so many things that I learned on my way that there are biases in this world. Because when I was growing up, I wasn't ever told what is to be done by you or not by you. Everything was supposed to be done by me if I could do it. So my mind was never conditioned to understand the gap. But when I started working and I moved
Yeah.
ahead in life, I
Yeah.
realized, and world made me realize that you are a girl. Oh my God. You should not
Yeah.
play it nice. You should not be doing this. But my parents never said anything to me like that. They said, you do what you
Yeah.
feel like is right. So when I became a mother, the biases only added up because I never felt that being a mother would change anything. I felt this is part of my life and I want to enjoy, really live it well. So I never believed this could change anything but the me. Much before even I was wanting to be a mother, I was getting married, started having the bias when she has a child, when she does this, when she will be pregnant, when this happens. The world around you starts cutting it on before you even know it. So when I was pregnant, Diksha, and you talked about pauses in the beginning, that life pauses you
Yeah.
sometimes and you recoup. I was sitting in my office in my third month. Firstly, I had a very complicated life health. That's another chapter, but I won't take it right now. But when I was third month pregnant, I had a short cervix. So the doctor said immediately you need to be operated and we need to stitch your cervix and you need to be on the bed for 14 weeks. I was like, what? 14 weeks? Like you can't move right, left, just washroom privileges of time yourself 3 minutes, not more than that. And I was constantly worried if my cervix breaks, water will come out, I will lose my baby. So वो तो था ही अलग, you were stressed out separately. So this happened. I was sitting, I had no plan of taking a break or aligning work to someone. I was in the hospital, I was operated, I was on the bed, flat. Now, how do you navigate a situation like this? You were not prepared for.
Yeah.
And the news in the industry the next 10 days was PMR is getting sold. Somebody is buying the company because
God.
Akanksha has not come into. This is was already there. For
Wow.
14 weeks, I was in a very bad state. I think everybody goes through, uh, you know, that period differently. I put on
Mm.
some 26 kgs. My legs were swollen. I used to call my team to a home, be in my 90s and talk to them, lie down. And so I had some, as business happens, something goes
Yeah.
right, something doesn't go right. But I could not react to anything because I was mentally ready as to
Mm.
be.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, in fact, imagine I was just going for my ultrasound to see my child for the first time. And there was a huge escalation that my team called me for and said, "This is what has happened. This is what is the mess." And my mind, while I was looking at the screen, was thinking
Mhm.
about how do I solve the escalation and not looking at my child. Imagine the first image that you see when you see the
Oh
baby.
my God.
My
Yeah.
memory is not of looking at her, my memory is of solving that in my head. So just sharing this with you because it is a constant journey. But
Mm.
honestly, I never told myself that this is a part that is motherhood, this is a part, this is an entrepreneur. This is two parts of the same person, of the same human, right?
Mm.
Everyone, not
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Such a small baby, this will happen, that will happen. How will you manage? How will you feed? But when I took that flight,
Huh.
I think my daughter and I built a relationship. I think we just,
And it
nobody
was
had to, I
so
just
much so.
closed my ears to everyone. I said, after that flight, I realized I can do anything.
Yeah.
If
And you said
she and I,
15 months old at that time?
yeah, first conference.
Wow.
And I was like, this is me and her only in this relationship. Till
Hmm.
she comes to a point where she can decide for herself. It's her and I in few things. Nobody else can decide for that for us.
Hmm.
And then Diksha, in the first 4 years of her life, she took 150 flights.
Did I
We
hear that
we
right?
went
150.
everywhere. We went everywhere. Hundredth flight was when she was 4. We were coming from Australia,
Wow.
and imagine COVID ka 1.5 didn't go anywhere. So
Yeah.
she went every single place. I took her to
Hmm.
client offices, of course,
Hmm.
asking them. They said, Please bring her."
Yeah.
Everybody so welcomingly said, "Get
Yeah.
your daughter, it's fine." I
Yeah.
realized it was one sector of the world telling you, making a
Mhm.
perspective that when you have a baby, you have to rest for 9 months. You can't do this. I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm not saying mothers who take break, they should not. Please do if you feel like. Please do what your body wants you to. But if
Yeah.
you want to get going, please
Yeah.
get going. There's no rule. I breastfed my daughter till she was 5.5 years. I know I went a long way, but then it was my decision. So
Hmm.
how when we normalize mothers who can't feed, which is fine. People who want to get back to work, they want to not do it. That's a
Absolutely.
choice. But if
Yes.
someone wants to do it for 5.5 years, that should also be a choice.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
I genuinely believe in choices, and I have always, be working mother. No, if you want to be at home,
Hmm.
do what you want to do, be at peace, works for you, but that's a choice you need to make and not someone else make for you.
Absolutely.
I wanted to work. That was a choice I made, of course. Great help. I could have not done this alone. I can't take all the credit. My
Hmm.
parents, my husband, the ecosystem had to be around to make things work. And also some of my office people, they all helped out. And it's a village actually when they
Hmm.
really say
Yeah, yeah. I
true.
know
But
that
I
saying
think
is the reason that it
there is
takes a
so much
village.
that comes from you because
Yeah.
if you're going for work and you're taking your daughter, your child,
Yeah.
if you're waking up in the morning, you're making sure you get the child ready, get her food, then go for your meetings, then come back. Your child has missed you for 8 hours. You have to be with the baby. So you are not getting any rest anywhere.
Hmm.
So, so that's a choice. That's something you need to be ready for
Absolutely.
happily. So I
Absolutely.
I just didn't want it to be like I had to
Hmm.
decide. I
Hmm.
wanted it to flow and luckily it did.
Hmm.
Um and I think all stereotypes were broken then. That okay, oh, she's back to work in 1 month, and
Yeah.
if COVID was not what didn't happen, we were absolutely sailing. And then post COVID, I think we even did better. So I think for me, motherhood has made me so much more patient, so much more aware, so much more like the belief system is even stronger.
Hmm.
Because when I tell my daughter, it's okay
Hmm.
if you fall from your horse, you get up and you do it again. I'm
Yeah.
telling this to myself that listen,
Yeah.
why am I sulking about something, get up and do it again.
Yeah, true, true.
I resonate so much when I tell her something.
Absolutely. I think it's really it resonates a lot with me when, I heard someone say that we're not raising our children, we're actually raising ourselves every single day to be
Absolutely.
a better version of whoever we are. So I think it's really all about that. But tell me, Akanksha, you also spoke about your mother, who was also a working mother. So your father and mother built PMR, from scratch. When you look at working mothers, we often say that, all right, things are better now, there's enough help, there's so much conversation. But from where you stand, what do you think has genuinely changed across generations when it comes to motherhood? And what are the patterns that you see are still repeating themselves, possibly in more quieter ways, but across generations?
I'm very disheartened and sorry to say that nothing has changed. It's very, very minuscule change that has happened. For someone like me, probably, for someone like you, probably. But I think in my office, I still see so many women who are not able to work because they had a baby.
Yeah.
It's not their decision, it's their family.
Hmm.
Or they have to wake up in the morning, set up the house, do everything in the house, come to work, do a full day, go back, take care of the child, and even still they are told that you're not giving enough to your child.
Hmm.
That's
Hmm.
one side. Secondly, with respect to the whole ecosystem of, hiring talent, the moment women are 30s and they're married, so many people I know who would not hire them, not
Yeah.
hire them for certain roles.
Hmm.
I'm not debating. Probably, yes, productivity efficiency can be because I myself feel that my efficiency and productivity is maybe lesser than what was. But then I also know that if you give that woman the love and the power, the kind of work she will deliver back to you is going to be next level.
Hmm.
Any
Hmm.
of a woman, that 30
Would-
figured out.
Yeah, true.
There's a lot to be done that side. It's not one person I would say is wrong. I think so many men have started supporting in so many ways.
Hmm.
But there are still mother-in-laws, there are still other responsibilities. Your own parents at times are
Hmm.
your responsibility because you are just single child or you don't have your with you. They're in another country. So
Hmm.
there are many, many things that have to be figured out. But from a corporate perspective, I think companies are genuinely making an effort, but there's so much of
Yeah.
MSME that we have in the country. We have about
Hmm.
80% of MSMEs that run our right.
Hmm.
They need to be more. They need to be supported more to be able to hire more people.
What comes to your mind as some of those systemic level interventions, Akanksha? That at a headline view, you think could possibly be transformational for this space, helping and enabling us plug this gap.
See, I think firstly we need to have a very clear cut efficiency to productivity match. I think if someone is going on a longer break, take care of the situation. The companies need to get support from the government for sure, because if you have 10 people at the same time and you have to pay up, because at the end that work has to be done by someone, right? So you're actually doubling up the people and everything. So there is a very practical cost issue there. Second
Okay.
is that when you are in that phase, you need to have a very proper, clear communication from two sides.
Hmm.
I think the women who genuinely, there's so many girls who don't even want to work after they have a child. They want to just, and that's fine, right? And I'm talking about girls who are just built like that. I'm not talking about women who make a choice and say, okay, we don't want to,
Hmm.
go back to work because we want to be with our children. Or at 40, if you have a child, it's very fair to just be with the child because your anyway
Hmm.
energy is gone. But
Yeah.
so many girls who just at 21, 22 just join work because there's nothing to do and then they will get. I'm talking about smaller scale business problems because there are girls and people who come from different towns,
Absolutely.
it's not ambitious and they don't want to work after getting
Right.
married. So there the conversation has to be very clear of what is the plan in life.
Hmm.
I think, but again, it's such a thin line that you can only do your bit correctly. It
Hmm.
has to be both ways. It also has to be families who have to start supporting, or start believing
Hmm.
ecosystem that both husband and wife should be working so the child is built better.
Hmm.
So there are a
It-
lot of lot of things
Yeah,
on a daily
I know, I know,
basis.
I know. It's a long rope that we've all given, but there is work that's happening every single day, and there is movement all in the positive. But I think
I mean, I think women only with women, I think, if you end up saying that, okay, working women do some certain things, and people who are not working, that we are trying to put them down or something. So there's a lot of people that you see around, like podcasts and conversations and interviews, where it's such a, I just feel women need to stand by each other. It's a choice and it should be supported through and through.
yeah,
Like if my sister-in-law at home wants to do something, I should be stand up and say, you
absolutely,
go ahead, I'm here. If nobody's here, I'm here for you. But that's
absolutely.
rare, right? Women.
Yeah, I'd love to
Absolutely
believe
rare.
in a utopian world that that's changing, and I wouldn't want to bust that bubble for myself. But yes, I know that there can definitely be a lot more that we can do to help one another rise than pulling the other one down. I totally hear you on that. Um, Akanksha, there was another thing that you kind of brought in, and uh, it's a very personal thing. So if you'd like, we could also just totally go over it. But would love to know a little bit about what was the health curveball that you kind of mentioned, and when life threw that at you, how did you kind of deal with that that feeling of, am I, is this going to be over daunting, is this going to get things to fall apart, is this going to make me fall behind, and how did you, when you overcame that, how did you come back? Was it a newer version of you? What was that entire experience like for you? And if there are any giveaways for women or for people in general who are possibly navigating a health crisis, how would you explain this to them?
Parts appendix or something. And then that was off. Then I was given progestons, which is,
Hmm.
you hold didn't work for me. I was 19, so
Hmm.
I had a lot of, so basically all medicines were out. So now what do you do with the situation? Yeah, I mean, I was given all type of advice at 19 that you should get married, have a child, because this is a fertility issue. It could be this and that. I said, nothing doing. I want to go for my MBA. I want to continue what I'm doing.
Yeah.
At 19, I had my first surgery. At 22, I had my second surgery because cyst again grew back. If you read about endometriosis, you'll know that it's a very, very heavy, painful lifestyle. It takes you down when you don't expect it. You're sitting in a meeting and you have cramps. You're sitting in a conversation and you're like you're sitting in an exam. Imagine you can't write your paper because you're thriving in pain. So
Hmm.
that as a student, and then I finished my MBA. I got operated once again because I was like going to Singapore, so get it sorted. And then I came back. I joined work. I moved away. I went to Bangalore. I told you I went to all the cities alone.
Yes.
Again, I gave myself the push. I think I was always had to do something that was beyond my capacity. And then I would do at least some bit and fall back on some. Yeah, I think everybody said get married. I said no, I want to build PMR. And then I just got crazy building the company. My drive, my thrive, I think I was in a different rhythm in my life in my 20s.
Hmm.
I think no pain, nothing mattered. I think I just flew wherever I wanted to. I had so many UTI issues. Endometriosis was a constant problem.
Hmm.
It really took me down. Um, at many points in my life. But Tawai Khao moved ahead.
Hmm.
Got operated once again in 25 again. And then when I got married, I had a because I had fertility issues. So we went for an IVF program because I didn't want to waste time. I knew I had a challenge. So I वो कराया उसमें मुझे ovarian hyperstimulation हो गया. That was another problem. I was in the ICU for 3 days. And then luckily I had Samira in the first attempt. Beautiful experience.
Hmm.
Goes back. And then when she was 2, I had adenomyosis. Adenomyosis is the next version of endometriosis, which is even worse. I took care of endometriosis, so adenomyosis would be easy. When it both happen together, it can really take you down, like
Hmm.
level. Your body, your back, I mean, बहुत दर्द होता है. There's a lot of problem there, so you can't really do much. And then 2 problems are still with me. I haven't got through my hysterectomy. Oh, I don't know what I want to. I wanted a second child, so I went ahead with few things, and I thought I wanted one, so I did push myself again. I told you I always pushed myself, then I fell back somewhere.
Hmm.
It didn't happen, but so I'm living with these two problems. And apart from that, I had my eyes, so I had higher myopia, so I had a retina detachment twice, so that got operated. So overall, I have had 12 surgeries, but I'm going strong.
Bless you.
But
Really.
yeah, but definitely that adenomyosis and endometriosis are definitely creeping more in today. I see so many people with
Hmm.
these problems. Lifestyle issues to hai, but then I think it has become also something that does, you know, take pull you back in life. So I would just want to say that, your health really comes first. You should do everything that you're supposed to do. But there's
Right.
so many things which are not in your control. And definitely be careful and and uh, you know maybe a little bit you want to take less risk, it's fine. But if you are someone who wants those risks and wants to just live her life the way you want to, then don't stop yourself, because I think when you look back, you will not remember how much pain you had. You will remember how you overcome those pains, and you will. So I think nothing should stop you from getting what you want to get in your life. And I think so many examples. I think I have very zero problems. I think there's so many who've had complete amputation in life. Legs are not there, hands are not there. They can't see, and they still get out, achieve their dreams. So
Yeah.
I think that's next level
Hmm.
inspiration. So yeah, never. I mean, I was told by everyone that it's going to be very hard for you to have a baby, get married to someone who already has a child. And I was like, I will have a child. Don't worry, I will. Because I just told myself and put it out there in the universe that I will.
Hmm.
Never let anybody tell you cliche, but never let anybody tell you that you can't do something.
Wow, I love that. I love that. And I think it just also brings to fore the power of human mind, the power
Mm.
of sheer determination and will
So I'll tell
to
you, Diksha,
kind
for
of fight
example,
the world.
you wanna do something, and you have
Yeah.
in your mind, and you go and
Yeah.
speak to someone who says, yeah, maybe you're right.
Yeah.
Maybe you've not done this in your life. Take low,
Yeah.
soch low.
Yeah.
Did you have to do this? You'll be like, oh, okay, maybe not. But if someone says, go for it, yeah, you're just so capable, you're
Yes.
so meant for it.
I know.
It
Hmm.
changes your perspective completely. But that
Absolutely does.
voice sometimes
Hmm.
has to be your own,
Hmm.
because your own voice has to first be that strong to tell
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
that no matter how many 10 will say no, 10 will say yes, but your voice needs
Hmm.
to be this voice, which can't be so uh, low. It has to be that rigor in yourself.
Right. No, I love that. It to me, this conversation so far feels like an inspiration, a motivation, a nudge to rethink how I have imagined my life on so many levels. So it's a masterclass in itself on what strong will looks like, and it's been a pure joy so far, Akanksha. Thank you for that. Before we let you go, Akanksha, I know that you've been very intentional about advocating for or, enabling women at different levels. Just want to understand, where are you at? What is the kind of work that you've done with and for women around you in your peer group, in your friends, in your professional circuit, etc.? And, what do you think about the role that a mentorship or sponsorship would play in a woman's journey ahead in today's day and time? And how do you believe it needs to go beyond just good intent?
So, in my own space, whatever I could do in life is was looking at my own team. So I have a team of 300 packers with me.
Yes.
About 60% of them have equal child and also children. And so we have a lot of, so we opened a lot of scholarship programs for
Okay.
girls, for boys as well, but mainly for girls.
Hmm.
We employed some of our second generation kids in our office.
Hmm.
And we were very clear, you need to be educated. Then
Hmm.
you think about their marriage. I made sure those people who were with me were not
Hmm.
getting their daughters married very early or not investing in their education. If they couldn't, we
Hmm.
would. So
Hmm.
first was my own people. You first make the change where you can in your own surroundings. There's no point in going out there and spending money in XYZ place, but your own. So my first step was my people. I think we have achieved quite a lot there. I think the conversations are very strong there. I too talk a lot about children. I always believe that my life would be successful if there is if there was one child who even understood more. So that
Hmm.
helps. Thirdly, we support a lot of programs, like we support Harmony House, which is for underprivileged kids.
Mm-hmm.
We support uh, a lot with like Robin Hood Army, where
Hmm.
we are the logistics partner for moving all the ration and all the food across the city.
Hmm.
Then we support a lot of women in sports. So we are supporting a women underprivileged girls football team in Bhubaneswar.
Hmm.
Beautiful girls team, and some of them are playing fantastically well. So there are multiple avenues that we are working on girl child, but I would say not just girls but children,
Hmm.
nutrition, health, food, sports, education. We're also
Hmm.
supporting an autistic center for Harmony House. So that is again where we're working
Okay.
on. So there's a lot of stuff that we're doing parallelly as well.
Hmm.
Like if there's a children's day, I always make sure that we take kids to either company. जब हमारे पास we had little bit, we did then also, but when we have this, then we do that also. So I
Oh,
don't think you need a lot of money to do a lot. You need the right intent to make
intent.
a difference. But like I
That.
said, if there is, 20 years later when I probably, you know, put my boots down, if there is somebody who can tell me that, you changed the fortune of our family and, there was an
Hmm.
impact that you created, I think I would
Yeah, fantastic.
have done
And
that.
I really hope that that does come true for
Yeah.
you. And we have a lot of us contributing in that direction. I think that's a very, very noble thing to do for the society. And that's how we all kind of move forward together.
Mhm.
But that does bring us to the end of this beautiful conversation, Akanksha. Thank you so very much. Um, what stays with me today is that, you know, growth happens in those small pockets, often unannounced, and how we just keep moving forward, building that momentum, recalibrating without losing ourselves. Everything that we spoke about with such simplicity, and how we unpacked the power of will, I think are things that are going to stay with me for very, very long. So, for anyone who's tuned in, if you know someone who's quietly navigating big shifts in life or just relooking at where they want to be, then I definitely feel that this conversation is for them. Because, more so as women, sometimes the most powerful thing that we can offer another woman is possibly just the language for what she's already living through. So thank you for giving us that language today, Akanksha, with such simplicity. I'm sure to carry forward a lot of lessons along with me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Diksha, for having me. Pleasure talking to you.